So in prelims, if I have to talk about the contribution of geography optional, nearly 18 to 20 questions. Okay, so I'm basing this based on the trend from 2022 to 2025. 16 questions are compulsorily going to come, again based on these trends only. GS paper आपके हाथ में. Okay, so थोड़ा बहुत मेहनत करना पड़ेगा. So in terms of other subjects, right? So one is general studies 1 as well as general studies 3. There is a direct contribution here. Explain with example. This is a directly mentioned topic of tsunami in geomorphology. Can you see? Tsunami in geomorphology. Okay, directly mentioned topic. If at all you have done your optional preparation thoroughly, this would have been a cakewalk for you, both GS1 as well as GS3. Hello everyone. We all know the importance of an optional subject in civil services main examination. So today through this short video, so I'll try to explain the contribution of geography optional subject, if at all you have one, or if you're thinking of choosing geography optional. Okay, so what is its contribution in general studies? So first of all, the optional subject is basically part of your civil services main examination. So in which we have a total of 7 papers whose marks will be counted and 2 more papers which is qualifying in nature. So out of these 7 papers, 2 papers are going to be optional, and for that you have to choose one optional subject. Okay, so out of a total of 48 subjects which are given in the notification. So in that context, geography is one of the most commonly chosen optional. Okay, so there people use various different criteria to select geography as a optional subject. Okay, so some of them is a keen interest in the subject, or it's a very rational, logical to think, or even to some extent there's an element of subjectivity. Okay, so these are the various different factors basically. So in this context, whenever you choose an optional, of course, interest is the most primary criteria one has to consider, right? So without interest, if you're taking a subject just because there's a so support available or material available, or it has a great contribution in GS, so it will not be a good decision, because you will not be able to score better in optional. Optional has a great weightage in mains, right? So at the same time, so in terms of scoreability also, it becomes very, very important. However, so let's say you have a few optionals in consideration. Okay, so let's say you have an interest. Interest is the primary factor, primary criteria. So if you go beyond interest, there are few certain factors which you will consider. Okay, so interest, as I told you, so the most important factor to ye hai, assuming that you have equal interest in multiple different subjects. Okay, so another factor is what kind of support is available. So in terms of classes or material, etc. So the most important factor in common optionals you see is its role and contribution in your general studies prelims preparation. Here I'd like to give you a simple warning. So when I say contribution in GS, it mainly talks about the amount of time which you are going to put in to understand that subject, and the material which you are going to read, and the number of hours you are going to sit in the class to understand that. So this it will reduce. However, in terms of answer rating, it is not going to be the same, right? So there is a clear difference between so optional answer rating as well as general studies answer rating. You just have to do some answer rating, but however, taking certain optional will help you in your contribution in GS by reducing the number of hours you're going to spend in understanding that subject. The content and understanding, you can all derive that from the optional. However, you have to do some answer rating practice. So this is one of the factors which the students will be considering while choosing the optional. So let's say you have 3-4 optional in common, and geography is one among them. And if you want to see the contribution of geography in GS, so this video is going to be helpful for you. Okay, so I just want to explain that part. So what is the role of geography subject when it comes to general studies? Okay, so let me see in both prelims as well as mains perspective, how much contribution it is making. Okay, so when we talk about the prelims, basically, so this is the prelim syllabus. Okay, so in paper 1 of prelims, we have various different subjects. In that, if you see this particular part, there is Indian and world geography. This is a subject which covers the physical, social, economic geography of the world as well as India. So this is geography part. This part is completely covered if at all you have thoroughly prepared your optional, which covers all of this in a very, very detailed manner. This is totally direct. Okay, there is, other than this, there's one more subject which you can clearly see. General issues on ecology, biodiversity, climate change that do not require subject specialization. This is totally part of your environmental geography of paper 1. Okay, so environmental geography of paper 1 in geography optional. This is a complete unit where you have to prepare thoroughly the environmental issues. As well as in paper 2, in the 10th unit of paper 2 in geography optional, this is thoroughly covered. And this is covered in the entire both paper 1 as well as paper 2. So in prelims, if I have to talk about the contribution of geography optional, nearly 18 to 20 questions. Okay, so I'm basing this based on the trend from 2022 to 2025. Okay, so nearly 18 to 20 questions compulsorily come from this particular section. A minimum of 15 to 16 questions are compulsorily going to come, again based on these trends only. Okay, so these minimum of 15 to 16 questions are going to come from the environmental issues. So approximately you can say 33 out of 100 questions, 33 out of 100 questions in your prelims is going to be thoroughly covered if at all you have taken geography as optional and studied it in detail. Okay, so I'm not saying again, so just choosing would not be sufficient. You have to go through each and everything in detail, and you are going to just study from the optional point of view. It's not necessary that you have to prepare from a GS and you have to do something extra. You thoroughly do it from optional point of view. This will suffice. Some current affairs updation, anyway, that is going to get added. So if at all you have geography optional, your area of environment and geography in your GS paper of prelims is thoroughly covered, so that you can so very confidently say keep so GS paper आपके हाथ में. Okay, so थोड़ा बहुत मेहनत करना पड़ेगा so in terms of other subjects, right? So this is in brief regarding the contribution of geography optional in prelims. Okay, so it's a very great contribution. You can see nearly 33 out of 100, around 1/3 of all the questions can be easily covered. Of course, I am considering the fact that you do some practice, you do some, so test series and so PYQ analysis to understand the trend and focus upon that. Otherwise, in terms of content preparation, in terms of sitting in the class, in terms of reading new books, it is not at all required. Okay, so this is particularly prelims. And for you to understand this, if at all you have gone through any of the last previous 10 years of paper, you can easily come to this conclusion. I don't have to discuss in detail. I want to focus more upon the mains part. Okay, so in mains particularly, out of 4 general studies papers. Okay, so we have 4 general studies papers. GS1, GS2, GS3, GS4. Okay, so what is the role of optional subject in these 4 papers? If at all you have taken geography as optional, let's say you have chosen geography as optional here. It directly contributes in 2 papers. One is General Studies 1 as well as General Studies 3. There is a direct contribution here. Fine. In General Studies 1, you can very clearly see the topic of geography of the world and some of the topics of society. I'm marking half of society because some topics of society overlap here. So that will be directly covered from the optional. You don't have to read it anything separately. In GS3, we have the topic of economic development, some of the concepts of development. Totally biodiversity, environment, as well as disaster management will be thoroughly covered again from your geography optional. You don't have to read it separately here. Okay, so you can very clearly see in both GS1 and GS3, there is a great contribution of geography optional. Fine. And so in some cases of essays, some of the topics related to environment, development, growth. Okay, so nature versus man. In that context, if you talk about the perspectives, the thinkers, the thought process in geography, geographical thought develop unit, that is going to be again going to be helpful. I'm not going to consider that factor here. Okay? So let me show through this year's paper. Okay, so how exactly the geography optional, if at all you had geography optional, how much marks it would have covered. Okay, so before that, so let me show the topics of GS1 which are going to be covered from the geography optional paper. Obviously, the entire topics of geography section in GS1 will be totally covered. Usually 100 to 120 marks will be covered from this section in your GS. Okay, so all these topics, salient features of world physical geography, paper 1 of optional, distribution of key natural resources across the world, including the factors responsible for primary, secondary, tertiary sector. It is covered in both GS, optional 1, optional 2, geography. Okay, so and important geophysical phenomena such as earthquake, tsunami, volcanic activity, cyclone, etc. All of these are again covered in various different units of paper 1 as well as paper 2 of geography optional. Okay, so this is totally covered. No doubt there is no second thought about this is here. Here it is completely covered in your optional geography. And in some topics of society also. Okay, so I'd like to mark it here. This is the syllabus from the UPSC notification itself. The topic of population and associated issues is part of your population geography of section B in paper 1. As well as the cultural setting unit of paper 2. Okay, so both are covered thoroughly here, and then the issues related to poverty, developmental issues, urbanization and their problems and remedies is completely covered. Both in section B of paper 1 as well as paper 2 of geography optional. This we are going to read in more detail over there. Okay, so some of the topics of society and all the topics of geography in GS1 are covered here in your optional. Okay, so this is from GS3 where the major subjects are economics, environment, disaster management, security, science and tech, etc. In that, I would like to highlight the topics. Okay, so particularly this topic which I have highlighted here. This is totally from the geography optional paper 2. In paper 2, there is a complete unit of agriculture where you talk about the agriculture in detail, the crops, cropping pattern, cropping condition. Okay, so all the factors, all the topics related to agriculture is thoroughly covered, including, in fact, the public distribution system. Okay, so we are talking about food security, technology missions, and even the animal rearing. All of these are covered. Okay, this is totally from the agriculture unit of paper 2. And in addition to this, food processing and then related industries in India, this is again a topic of both agriculture as well as industry, overlapping over there. Land reforms is again a topic of agriculture, wahan par bhi directly diya hai. Okay, so if at all I have to talk about the industrial growth, industrial policy, this is covered over there. Infrastructure is totally a separate unit. Okay, so unit number 5. Okay, so that is trade, transportation, communication. It is totally, so it is covered again. And so coming here, the conservation, environmental pollution, degradation, environmental assessment. This is part of both paper 1, environmental geography, paper 2, contemporary issues, including disaster and disaster management. Okay, so these are the topics which are very clearly covered if at all you had geography optional. Okay, so, and again I am saying, you don't have to read the content related to this. You don't have to read any other material. Your optional would suffice here. You have to do some answer writing practice and do the analysis of PYQs. Okay, so whether what I'm saying is right or wrong, let's go through this year's paper, 2025 mains paper. I've taken the screenshot from the paper itself. Okay, so both GS1 as well as GS3. Let's see how much of marks have come. I'll link it with the syllabus in each of the unit of syllabus of optional geography and see whether the topic is there or not. Okay, this is totally evidence-based. You can see by yourself if you can clearly go through this. First, let's go through the questions of GS1 and see where all you see these topics in optional geography. Okay, so I've taken those questions which are very easily linked to geography optional paper. Okay, this is GS1. Okay, so question number 4, if you see. How are climate change and sea level rise affecting the very existence of many island nations? Discuss with examples. A 10-marker question, question number 4. Okay, so this is the screenshot of the syllabus from the notification, the optional geography part. And in this is the paper 1. Okay, for those who are beginners, let me just give you a very brief idea about the different units so that you don't get confused here. In optional geography, we have a total of 10 units. 10 units in paper 1, 10 units in paper 2. Okay, so broad idea. So these are the 5 units in section A of paper 1. First one is geomorphology, second climatology, third oceanography, fourth biogeography, fifth is environmental geography. The 5 units of paper 1 section A. The 5 units of paper 1 section B, perspectives in human geography. I told you it These ideas, these, so the overall thoughts which you study here, this can be easily used in some of the topics of essay also. And then there is economic geography. So GS3 ka contribution hai. Population and settlement, regional planning, models, theories and laws. Okay? This is 10 units of paper 1. This is 10 units. Okay, first unit, physical setting, the physical features of India, including some of the disasters. Okay, so floods, droughts, natural vegetation, soil types, etc. Then resources, all the different types of resources of India. Agriculture, the entire agriculture unit, which I told you earlier, this is here. Entire industries, all the different types of industries, including tourism and ecotourism. Then there is transportation, communication, trade, all the infrastructure, communication, so space-related aspects, mapping-related aspects, everything is covered here. And then there is a 6th, cultural setting. It's about the population of India and its problems, settlements of India and its problems, regional development and planning, political aspects, some of the international relation aspect. You can easily link it with IR of GS2. I'm not considering this. Okay, so I'm just trying to compare GS1 and GS3 here. Contemporary issues is a very general issues which mainly talks about the geophysical issues of India. Okay, so most of them are current related environmental issues as well as disaster related issues. Okay, this is a general idea of the total of 20 different units. Now let me come back to the this year's paper so that you have a better idea of what I am saying. Okay, so for example, so this was the question I was saying. GS1 ka question number 4 tha. How are climate change and sea level rise affecting the very existence of many island nations? Discussed with example. This is a question from environmental geography as well as climatology. In climatology, can you see global climatic change? You have to study in detail. Global climatic change. The impacts of climate change. Issues associated with the climate change and what are the measures taken. You have to go in detail here. As well as the environmental geography, where you have to talk about environmental issues and conservation efforts. Okay, so for example here, the global and regional ecological changes and imbalances. This is talking about the climate change. Okay, so environmental degradation and management and conservation, again talking about the climate change, the impacts of climate change. Here, both the topics directly are linked to climate change topic. We have to study about the different types of impacts of climate change, and here comes the impact of sea level rise, particularly on the small island nations. Directly linked over there. Second, what are non-farm primary activities? How are these activities related to physiographic features of India? So this is a question which you can directly link with 2 units here. One is physical setting of India. Second is these resources and agriculture. The resource extraction and agriculture is basically the non-farm primary activity, which includes mining, lumbering, forest related activities. You can see forest related activities, even agriculture related activities, including the, agriculture is non-farm. Agriculture is farm. We are talking about non-farm. That is basically talking about the resources. If you have the basic idea of what is a non-farm, primary economic activity, you can link it with the physical geography and write the answer in a very easy manner. You don't have to go in detail here. You just have to understand the meaning of non-farm primary activity. Very easily you will understand this if you have covered the physical setting of India as well as the resources. Third one, explain briefly the ecological and economic benefits of solar energy generation in India with suitable example. Okay, so you come to the resources topic. Here we have energy resources. We talk about both the conventional as well as the renewable source of energy. Talking about particularly the renewable sources which are currently in use. We have many questions in paper 2 of geography optional, which talks about different forms of renewable energy. We talk about them in detail in the class also. Okay, this is a direct question from resources topic of paper 2. Fine. 7th, what are tsunamis and how and where are they formed? What are their consequences? Explain with example. This is a directly mentioned topic of tsunami in geomorphology. Can you see? Tsunami in geomorphology. Okay, directly mentioned topic. How does smart city in India address the issue of urban poverty and distributive justice? See here I know, so we don't talk about the distributive justice as such. As such, you don't discuss about the distributive justice in detail and the theoretical aspects even in GS2. You need to understand what is distributive justice. In that context, you need to know about what is smart city mission. And in the context of urban poverty. So where is this in geography optional? Okay, so this is part of, settlements, about the the problems of urbanization and remedies. Here we discuss about the Indian cities and their issues and their डेवलपमेंट. ओके, सो हियर यहाँ पर हम मेजर इंडियन सिटीज के बारे में हम बात करते हैं, अर्बनाइजेशन रिलेटेड इश्यूज. ओके, सो इन दैट कंटेक्स्ट हाउ वी आर मेकिंग द सिटीज मोर सस्टेनेबल, सो दिस कैन बी इजीली कवर्ड हियर. यहाँ पर हम बात करते हैं रिगार्डिंग द डिफरेंट programs of the government of India to cover so to make a urbanization more sustainable. Okay, so as well as in contemporary issues also we talk about this, so sustainable urbanization, okay, sustainable growth and development, okay, regional disparities in economic development. Here we talk about the various contemporary issues. In that context you can easily cover this. Okay, smart city mission. Okay, so this is direct questions we can say. And so coming to question number 14 in GS1, geographical exploration of distribution of offshore oil reserves of the world. How are they different from onshore? Okay, so you can very easily see economic geography. Okay, so various resources, energy crisis, world resources and their energy crisis. Here we talk about all the different types of resources, mineral as well as non-mineral, energy resources, petroleum, coal, natural gas. Here it is again directly covered. Okay, it appears to be slightly tricky. So, but otherwise, if you know, so this question number 15, how can artificial intelligence and drones be effectively used along with GIS and remote sensing techniques in locational and aerial planning? See, when we talk about locational planning and aerial planning, so we use this method of GIS and remote sensing. This is a core part of geography. Okay, so even though it is not directly mentioned as such in the syllabus of geography, those who study geography, they know this very clearly. The geographical information system as well as the remote sensing is the way through which we do the regional analysis. We analyze any particular region and work for the development. When we talk about the regional development, regional planning, we clearly talk about this. Okay, so locational and aerial planning, right? So can you see this? There's a regional planning topic. Okay, so and as well as in paper 2. Okay, so regional development and planning. Here also we discuss regarding the different methods of planning. And so particularly when we talk about the communication, transport and communication, we talk about different ways of communication. There again, satellite communication, remote sensing, GIS, these are very briefly discussed and the general idea of it would be sufficient to answer this. And don't think in terms of the drones and AI, that is a very, very predictable area considering the GS current affairs news. With the help of that, you can easily answer if you have read about the aerial planning and communication methods as it is very much required in paper 2 of optional 2. Question number 16, discuss how the changes in shape and size of continents and oceanic basin of planets take place due to tectonic movements of crustal masses. Okay, so come back here, geomorphology, the continental drift, isostasy, plate tectonics. This completely covers very detailedly. In fact, we discuss in much more detail than what it is being asked. So, totally direct question tha iska. 17. Discuss the distribution and density of population in Ganga River Basin with special reference to land, soil and water resources. Okay, so let me show here. So, in paper 2 of geography, unit number 7, settlements. In that, the first topic itself, the types, patterns and morphology of rural settlement. We discuss about the various different types of settlements, particularly in the rural context and the factors which are responsible for them. Okay, this is again a direct topic from here. And so question number 18, how do you account for growing fast food industry given that they are increasing health concern in the modern society? Of course, there is a society angle, otherwise there is also a geography angle, particularly from the topic of industry. Here, it is not only the industries which are given here, we go beyond that to discuss even the currently in news industries. Of course, fast food industry, food processing industry and all those industries which are currently in news we discuss in detail, that is definitely covered here. And question number 19, achieving sustainable growth with emphasis on environmental protection could come in conflict with the poor people's need in a country like India. A classical question on sustainable development. When we talk about the environmental protection as well as the growth, so this is a direct issue. Okay, so let me show its reference directly in the syllabus. Unit number 5, paper 1, we talk about sustainable development. Okay, we talk about sustainable development, right? Environmental degradation, management and conservation. Not only here. The same paper 1, we talk about economic development and various different measures. There also sustainable development comes into picture. As well as the last unit, contemporary issues, we talk about the concept of sustainable growth and development here. You can very clearly see here, the last unit of paper 2, the sustainable growth and development, directly mentioned in various different units. Okay, so this is question number 19. Yeah. So let's just count once how many different questions have come. Okay, so in 10 marker, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In 15 marker, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In GS1, the contribution of geography optional, 5 10 marker, 6 15 marker. 50 marks, 90 marks, 140 marks. Am I right? A total of 140 marks out of 250 is easily covered if at all you had geography optional. Right? I have linked with the syllabus. I have clearly highlighted the topics where it is discussed directly as well as indirectly. This is totally evidence-based. So let's see the contribution of geography optional in GS3. Okay, this year's first question. Distinguish between Human Development Index, Inequality Adjusted Human Development Index with special reference to India. HDI, IHDA. Okay, so ये geography optional में भी होता है क्या? Okay, so you can see the topic of perspectives in human geography. The last topic you can see the Human Development Index. A very clearly given topic. A direct topic from a direct topic from optional 1, in that the human geography. Okay, so the first unit itself. That is a direct question. Second, explain the factors influencing the decision of farmers on the selection of high value crops in India. Agriculture. Okay, so in this, the topic of cropping pattern. What are the factors which are considered for deciding the crops? Directly, which is given here. Next, elaborate the scope and significance of supply chain management of agriculture commodities in India. Same agriculture topic. This entire part, irrigation, seeds, fertilizer, power, institutional factors, land holding, land tenure, land reforms. Particularly, we are talking about institutional factors here. That is the question which is from here. All three are directly covered. Okay, so this is from paper 1, this is from paper 2. This is paper 1 perspectives. This is paper 2 agriculture topic, both the questions. Question number 6. How can India achieve energy independence through clean technology? Okay, so and how can biotechnology play a crucial role? I know biotechnology as such is not directly mentioned, but if you talk about the resources unit, here there is energy as well as energy crisis, a directly mentioned topic in Indian Geography paper 2. Here we talk about the necessity of having energy security. Okay, so the use of clean technology to achieve those energy security. In that clean technology, of course, biotechnology is one of the major part. Okay, so we have to study that definitely. Next, what is carbon capture and utilization and storage? What is the potential role of CCUS in tackling climate change? This is a question which can be linked to the climate change. Okay, we are talking about the global and regional ecological changes because of climate change and the measures which we are taking, management and conservation, Okay, so various different ways of tackling this climate change. Okay, we talk about that as well as in contemporary issues of paper 2. There also this is directly covered. Okay, so this one you have to study as part of environmental geography, definitely. Next, seawater intrusion in the coastal aquifer is a major concern in India. What are the causes of seawater intrusion and remedial measures to combat this hazard? Okay, so this is a topic which can be linked directly to our contemporary issues, ecological issues, environmental hazards, various different environmental hazards. We talk about this as well as the pollution. Okay, so in that context, saltwater intrusion becomes a crucial part of it. Not only that, even in so first aspect also, first physical setting also. Here we are talking about the different types of hazards. Okay, so and the issues over there. So we'll be covering indirectly over there too. Directly from contemporary issues, indirectly through the physical setting topic. Okay, this is also going to be covered from the current contemporary aspect. Discuss the rationale of PLI scheme. Okay, you may see, okay, this appears like a core economics question. Do we discuss this in geography optional? Yes. When you talk about the industry topic, this entire unit of paper 2 in Indian geography, we talk about the industries of India. When we talk about the industries of India, the major initiatives taken in the context of industrial manufacturing, industrial growth, their PLI is the most important one. In fact, for each and every industry in that context, we discuss this, the contribution of the government schemes and programs. In that, the most recent one, the major initiative of the government to boost manufacturing is PLI. We talk majorly about PLI in this unit. Not directly mentioned, but current issues se cover ho jate, current initiatives se cover ho jate, PLI scheme. Next, examine the factors responsible for depleting groundwater in India. What are the steps taken by the government to mitigate such depletion of groundwater? Okay, so let me show here resources, land, surface, and groundwater. You can very clearly see there's a topic of groundwater. We talk about the groundwater, depleting groundwater resources, as well as the initiatives taken by the government to reduce the depletion. Next, examine the scope of food processing industries in India. Elaborate the measures taken by government in food processing industries. Okay, so again, this is a topic we can link to agriculture. Okay, so this is covered as part of agriculture, even though it is not directly given. Indirectly, we cover it as part of agriculture, various different initiatives. And industry also, different agro-based industries. We talk about the food processing industry. Definitely, it is part of both the units. Okay, so again, a direct question. If at all you have done optional preparation, you would know this. 15th question. How does nanotechnology offer significant achievements in the field of agriculture? How can this technology help to uplift the socio-economic status of farmers? So on a direct reading, it appears like a question of nanotechnology, but clearly it is not just about the nanotechnology, it's about the agriculture. When we talk about the agriculture unit, okay, so here we talk about the various different initiatives, particularly in this context, irrigation, seed, fertilizers, and other things. We talk about the various recent programs of the government. There, particularly, for example, nano urea, वहाँ पर बात होते हैं. Okay, so in the context of different various schemes, recently बहुत सारा यहाँ पर हुआ है nano टेक्नोलॉजी यूज करके कैसे हम एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्टिविटी बढ़ाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, उसके ऊपर बहुत सारा यहाँ पर डिस्कशन होगा. यूजिंग दैट यू कैन डेफिनेटली राइट द आंसर. Okay, so that is about that. Then question number 16. India aims to become a semiconductor manufacturing hub. What are the challenges faced? Definitely this is a question from industry, all contemporary issues, and semiconductor industry was in news since last 1 or 2 years because the government is trying to boost the manufacturing over there in semiconductor. Okay, so and this one, in fact, even I had predicted for this year, not only in optional, even for GS also. Industry में तो semiconductor industry आपको thoroughly cover करना ही है. Okay, so next one, mineral resources are fundamental to the country's economy and these are exploited by mining, basically environmental hazards of mining. Okay, definitely this is part of resources. Here we talk about the different types of mineral resources and the issues associated. Dekho, energy and mineral resources, we talk about that. And then as well as in the contemporary issues also, we talk about the various different environmental issues. Okay, so यहाँ पर भी pollution का हम बात करते हैं, environmental pollution के बारे में बात करते हैं. So there definitely will be covering the mining aspect too. And the last one, write a review on the India's climate commitment under Paris Agreement. Again, the question is directly from environmental geography. Here we'll discuss the various initiatives which we are taking at both national and international level to combat the climate change. Okay, so that is GS3. So let's count the number of questions which have come in GS3. Okay, so 10 marker, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 10 markers. Okay, so 15 marker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so let's come back here. Let me just put this here. In case of GS3, we had a total of 6 10 marker and 7 15 marker. Total of 165 marks. If I remember correctly, so in GS1, we had a total of 6 10 marker. Okay, so let me just count back here. Okay, so you will also get the clarity. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 10 markers. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 15 marker, 5 10 marker, 6 15 marker. Okay, so in GS1 we have 5 10 markers, 6 15 marker. Total of 140 marks in GS1, 165 marks in GS2, 140 plus 165, 305. So out of 500 marks in GS1 and GS3, 305 marks were covered from your geography optional syllabus. If at all you have done your optional preparation thoroughly, this would have been a cakewalk for you, both GS1 as well as GS3. I'm telling you, you have to do some answer writing practice and PYQ analysis. The answers are not going to be the same, but the content is same. Preparation is going to be the same. Okay, so it's very clear the role of geography optional. Okay, so in your general studies preparation, both GS1 as well as GS3. Now I think you have sufficient evidence to make a right decision regarding the optional. Okay, so one of the major factor which we consider in choosing optional is basically the contribution in GS, and so most commonly chosen optional in the context of this contribution is basically geography because of its high weightage in both GS1 as well as GS3. Okay, so I'm telling you again, this is a factor which will come into picture only if you have an interest in the subject. If you have common interest in multiple subjects, and this is another added advantage of choosing geography, and if you had interest in geography. Okay, so fine, I wish you all the best. Thank you.